Hey guys, Comic Book Debate here, and today I just want to parallel this election with why superheroes and movies like Man of Steel, Winter Soldier, and Batman v Superman are so important. Heroes have always represented what's best in humanity: compassion, selflessness, courage, determination, leadership. The reason why these heroes resonate so much with society is that they represent an ideal we can all strive towards. From the first superhero to arrive to the scene in 1938, like Superman, to now where we have a wide range of diverse heroes, it's always been one common message. They've amazed us as kids, they instill value in us as we grow up, and they inspire us throughout life, honestly. In today's world, superheroes have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Marvel and DC Comics have translated their heroes on screen in many ways that both amaze us, but also make us think about society at large. Now, we have just got past an election where we reached a result that many of us are saddened by, disheartened by, and frankly, a lot of people have just lost hope in the American people. When a man elected president is one who built his entire campaign on fear mongering and hate, when a man who was endorsed by the KKK is elected president, when the man who insulted and alienated immigrants, women, Muslims, disabled, and all people of color is elected president, it becomes an embarrassing moment for all of us in this country. Many people are angry and frustrated and have voiced all kinds of emotions during this time. But what better time to look at our superheroes, look back at the values and the role models they were for us as kids, and honestly see the message the recent films have been trying to tell us all along. Reading comic books my entire life, especially Superman comics, I've always been amazed by what experience have given me. The best comics as a kid were always the ones full of action and color. But as I've grown up, the ones I cherish most are the ones that speak to society as a whole, the ones that challenge issues, challenge stereotypes, and break ground into making a better tomorrow. In the films, I look and lean towards the same. While I love seeing action and seeing the pages and characters of the comics come to life, what I really look for is the overall message that these characters give us, even to this day. So in this post-election world where many of us are anxious and scared and disheartened, I would love to look at 4 recent comic book films, 2 DC and 2 of Marvel, and I would love to use this message of hope and inspiration no matter how dark and ugly the world is around you, and show why it's so important in these movies. Now for Marvel, I'll be looking at Captain America Winter Soldier and Captain America Civil War. For DC, I'll be looking at Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Starting with Man of Steel, Zack Snyder helped bring Superman into our world, in a more realistic world that has both its light and its darknesses. Superman, who is arguably the most iconic fictional character of all time, has seen many interpretations on screen, but Zack Snyder's Superman is probably the most relatable at all. At his core, Superman's story is one of the immigrant, discovering himself and finding himself in a world that rejects him. The journey to self-discovery is one of so many immigrants' stories in this country. Fear and suspicion take up the world as Superman shows himself, a humanity that is not ready for an alien to be among them. What Superman continuously lives through and represents is to fight through that and to be the best person you can be, help the most people you can, and do the most good you can do despite what the world puts on your shoulders. What's better than to look at that as your example when you see a president-elect in Donald Trump who's built his entire campaign on capitalizing on the xenophobic nature of the American people? What Man of Steel provides is a Superman that is just like us, and while physically he's invincible, mentally he's just like you and me. He just wants to do the right thing in the time he is given with the gifts he has. Man of Steel was criticized for having such a grim world where Superman struggles to exist. But didn't Zack Snyder just point the mirror at ourselves? By putting a Superman in a world that is actually like ours and force him to find his better natures in that world, didn't he just give us the most realistic Superman we've ever seen on screen? Let's take a second and move to Marvel now. Now, Marvel has created a beautiful world for their characters to play in. They have made successful movie after movie, and they have taken a different approach than DC, but still very potent. Marvel gives us a more utopic world to experience. It capitalizes on what many of us have read comics for as a kid, for that need to escape reality and get lost in the wonder of comics. It brings happiness to viewers to see the Avengers save the world and be cheers and make jokes, and I think that's just awesome. It does a great job for many people. But that's why even more so, films like Captain America Winter Soldier and Civil War are so important, because this time we see that same utopian world get chipped a little bit. When we see Captain America, who is the quintessential heart and soul of this country, represented as a hero, he is supposed to have all the values that makes this country amazing. But what the events of Winter Soldier shows is that Captain America, the symbol of that hope, what does he do when he has to stand against fear and the paranoias of society? And what he does is that he sets an example. He inspires. One of my favorite moments is when he tells Nick Fury that this isn't freedom, this is fear. And this once again tallies back into the election that we just went through less than 48 hours ago, where fear was on the ballot, where paranoia was on the ballot. And the American people actually voted for those principles and elected the manifestation of those principles into presidency. Now, Civil War showcased more of that paranoia into humanity when you see the Sokovia Accords and you see how a fellow superhero, Iron Man, even believed in some of those principles. But when you look at this stuff, you see that both films have a level of social commentary that really reflect the real world, and I think post-election, they have become that much more powerful. Now, I want to end on this film, and I think those who are familiar with me and my Twitter page know how much I love Batman v Superman. BVS carries probably the most strongest level of social commentary we've ever seen in a comic book movie outside of Watchmen, which is another Zack Snyder film. But what makes Batman vs. Superman stand apart is that even through the darkness and all that social commentary on the grim level of society, there's that one glimmer of hope that does not let go, even when he's on the brink of deconstruction. And this brings us back to Superman. Now you see the hate, xenophobia, and paranoia gloom over this movie and on Superman. And through all of that, the only good is under constant scrutiny by the American people and by the government and by the media. And now once again, you see the notion of being scared by your neighbor. This world looks at Superman as a stranger and a threat, much like how many minorities, including Muslims, African Americans, Latinos, feel on a daily basis when they are the focus of Trump's rhetoric during the election process. Now, if you see Batman, he in many ways mirrors the fear that you see many people have in this society. You see how he regresses as a person as he gives himself up to the hate and xenophobia that many Americans have done just now. You see those traits and you see what they've done to him. Batman's fears of Superman are not too far off of what many Americans feel about immigrants. And you see firsthand what Zack Snyder regressed Batman into. But all of that was washed aside when Batman opened his eyes and got to know Superman and found that this man, despite being an alien, despite being physically different from him, is actually not that different at all. Isn't that exactly what this election should teach us all to do? To look at our fellow man and woman and to look at our neighboring cultures, religions, and races and to find out that deep down, we all want the same thing. All of us are on the same team. Batman v Superman mirrors that experience. And now millions of immigrants and minorities can relate to what Superman was going through over the course of this film. And if you see how Superman handles that, how he stayed true to his values, stayed true to his cultures, his dual cultures of Krypton and Earth, and stayed true to being an immigrant, then you see how Batman on the other end succumbed to his worst nature, like many Americans have, but he climbed back. You can see the true beauty of Zack Snyder's message in Batman v Superman. Now, as a Muslim myself, I can tell you firsthand that it was heart-wrenching to see Trump win. But it's not because of Trump or Trump's words. It is that the American people, my people, chose him to be president. That many people across America felt that his policies, many of which target Latinos and Muslims and minorities directly, is what the right way was to go for this country. Superman, the symbol of superheroes everywhere, felt the same thing as me in Batman v Superman. And if you see how he handled that without anger, but he still kept his faith in humanity and still fought for good, you see he's doing exactly what superheroes have always meant to do since 1938, to be the best person we can be and turn an ideal for those to strive towards. The world needs superheroes now more than ever in these films. And while on the outside they might be a fun experience, they carry much more weight than you and I could have hoped for before this election. Seeing them on screen now is showing us that you can still be hopeful and still be good, and there's no hole you can climb from, and that's the most powerful message you can carry. So I will be taking Superman's route here, and I'm hopeful that even in the face of adversity and hate, you all do too. So I know this is a little different video, but thanks for listening, and if you guys like my breakdown, you can like, comment, and subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter at Comic Book Debate. Alright guys.